Hi artists, welcome to Make It Monday. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a sculptor named Alberto Giacometti. He was a Swiss sculptor who was born in 1901 and died in 1966. And as so, he lived through a lot. He lived through the Second World War, First World War, and continued to make art through it. He started off his times as a surrealist and a cubist. So he said that he gathered most of his information, most of his ideas from dreams. These images came fully formed into his brain, and then he just had to make them. He actually stopped creating art for about 10 years and then got really interested in the human head and the human face. So he started to break apart what he knew about the human form. He was characterized by having a very, very rough and drawn style. His most famous works were these humanoid figures, which he started right after the Second World War. He became so popular because he was seen as the person who could voice what everyone was feeling about being human after the Second World War. He was seen as being able to take that fear and depression and absolute just willingness to survive or ability to survive even though they'd been through so much. So today we are going to draw our own figures to represent represent our ability to create. So this is a two-part project. The first thing that you're going to need to do is just draw some stick figures. So I'm going to just draw some really basic ones. Got a head, arms, legs, and then start to think about emotion in it. What would it be like to say, oh no, if I was a stick figure? I'd put my hands up and be like, oh no, and have my legs, my arms. What about something like joy, yay? I'd have my head, my arms up in the air, maybe jumping for joy, yay. Or of course you can have something walking. One leg slightly bent, one leg up, and then moving. So just think about it. Think about some different emotions that you feel. Think about anger or sadness, or what else you can do with a stick figure. When you're done with that, what you're going to need is a piece of tin foil. So just a rectangle of tin foil. And for this, we are going to create our person. So we draw a line in the middle, and these are going to be legs. So leg, leg. Right in the middle, we'll draw two little lines, and this is going to be our torso. And then two arms up here. So this is going to be head, and arm, and arm. So interestingly enough, Giacometti was considered one of the most, if not the most famous surrealist sculptor of modern times. And a weird art fact is that modern art is not actually today's art. Modern art stopped in about the 40s and 50s. Now, if there's work being created today, it's called contemporary art. So he was a sculptor in the modern art times. And like I said, he died in 1966 and was creating work all the way up to that time. He believed that he could never really understand the human form, and that his works were never really done. So he would work and work and work, and then eventually he just kind of stopped working, and he never necessarily finished. He just thought that he just couldn't work anymore. Alright, so right now I'm just cutting along the lines. I'm cutting along the lines. So you'll see I have arm, arm, torso, leg, leg, torso, arm, arm, head. And then we just kind of crumple them up. So I start folding. And his figures, if you're ever lucky enough to see one of them in a museum, they're really very striking. He made them out of bronze. So So to make a bronze model, what you do is you first make it out of clay. And then you cast it. So you put your clay model into a form, and then you fill it with something like plaster. And then you take your clay form out, and then you would fill that space that's in there with liquid metal, in this case bronze. And then you would take all of it out, and then it would be left with just your figure, so a bronze figure. His work, if you look at it, it's always very, very rough. It looks like he's just added pieces on and kind of scraped away, and it makes it just look drawn and very, very, very long. He initially started with these figures as very, very small. His first ones were only 7 centimeters long, which is 7 centimeters is this long. This long, so about as long as your finger. And eventually, over time, they just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Some of his most famous ones are about 6 to 8 inches. And then by the end of his career, he was making some that were taller than a person. His work is still on display all over the world. I think the Tate Museum in London. And then also he has quite a few exhibitions that go on in New York. I believe I was lucky enough to see him in New York. Well, not him, his work, obviously. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you just kind of squish it up. So now I'm going to keep working on it and see what I can do. So I'm going to squish his torso together. And I'm going to roll his arms and roll that head. He really liked to play with the form, play with proportion. He also did other animals like cats and dogs. And all of them have this haunted post-war quality to them. So I think this guy, let's see. Let's go for an oh no. So he's putting up his hands and an oh no. So I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to make him tall and slender. And there we go. There he is. An interesting thing that you can do if you want to make it a little bit more fun is you can make them little desk hangers. My desk is not. Here we go. Let's try this. You can do a little headstand there. So see what you can do. See how many forms you can make. See what expressions you can make. Is he going to be happy? Is he going to be sad? Is he going to be running or jumping? Alright, bye guys. Good luck.